some of these patterns, and how we were almost even creating like a self-fulfilling prophecy because we were so afraid of it that we were actually creating it. And it wasn't until him and I started really having these deep conversations with each other and being so raw and so vulnerable and so open that we were able to start like letting the armor go piece by piece, wall by wall. We started to let these things come down so that we really could meet each other at our hearts. And it was like the more armor that came down, the more truth, the more vulnerability that we brought into the room, that we brought into our relationships, it had this beautiful inverse reaction. And at the same time, it was like that was the same amount and capacity for more love to flow through, for more intimacy, right? For more connection, for more vulnerability, for more of everything that we were wanting from each other. But it first took us diving deep into our bodies and into our wounds, into our traumas, and really making the choice that, you know what, despite all of this and despite all of this pain, and even though I know that this is the part of me that is so deeply trying to protect me, we had to make a choice that instead of choosing the protection, instead of choosing safety, instead of choosing to keep each other's at an arm's distance, that we made a commitment and devoted ourselves to always choose love. Welcome back to the Shadow Priestess Embodied. I'm your host, Kaylin Rakowski, and thank you for joining me today for another deep dive and exploration into your inner world, into your body, the shadow realms, where we will begin to explore some of these esoteric principles and really begin to drop them down into modern day application and embodiment. This is a sacred place where you can begin to truly meet yourself, meet your medicine, and to meet your magic. This is a place of remembrance. Take a deep breath and let's begin. Welcome back, gorgeous humans, for another episode of the Shadow Priestess Embodied podcast. I'm your host, Kaylin Rakowski, and thank you for tuning in. So, y'all, it's been a couple weeks. It's been a couple weeks since I have checked in with you guys. And to be honest, I've just been in my own little bubble of bliss. So, for those of you who maybe follow me on social media or some other avenue, are connected to me, you'll know I got engaged. Yay, right? I got engaged to the love of my life, my partner in everything. And yeah, we've been together for 5 years, and this is probably the happiest I've been in such a long time. Those of you who follow the podcast and, know different ins and out, this last year and a half now, honestly, in my life has been a whole motherfucking trip in itself, right? It's been a whole trip, a whole initiation, such a void of voids. And it feels so good to feel new life forming, to feel new life breathing through. And with that, in this like brisk of fresh air that I've been sitting in and this new just feeling of aliveness, the last couple weeks I've really been just kind of like sitting with this. And I'm still not really sure how this is gonna be articulated or how spirit's gonna want to move through me, because as you guys know, like I just come on here and flow with y'all. But I've really been thinking about choosing love after you've been through heartache, and choosing love, even if for like me, I've been through some pretty severe trauma. I've been in physically abusive relationships, emotionally abusive relationships. I had a child with somebody who I'm no longer with. And, that causes a lot of like trauma and heartache in itself as well. And, to be completely honest with you guys, when my partner Kevin came into my life, I had the identity, as an independent woman. I can do it all by myself, bad bitch, all of the things that are so applauded in today's society. And even when we got together, I really didn't want to be with him. Let me backtrack. Not that I didn't want to be with him. When him and I first started connecting and we first started talking, and just kind of like, testing the waters of our relationship, um, there was a part of me that really was resistant because at that point I had been single for a couple years. I felt like, I kind of had life figured out. It was me and my son, and I was working, and, not that I was thriving by any way, but like we were doing okay and we were figuring it out. And after going through something so traumatic and so heartbreaking, I just vowed that like I would never be in a situation again that would ever cost me my peace, that would ever take me away from myself, that would ever take me away from my son, that would ever just like take me out of my heart and my connection to my most authentic part of myself and to spirit, like, which is, my my most favorite part of myself, right? So it was like very important to me that whoever was going to come into my life was going to add value to my life, was going to add more happiness, more joy, more love, more fulfillment, just, more. And I didn't want to be in a situation again where I felt like I had to sacrifice myself in order to make somebody else happy or be in connection with someone else. So as I started talking to Kevin and we started connecting, and I could really feel the chemistry between us, and I could also like feel myself resisting it. And not that I hadn't dated in the 2 years, but I honestly never went on a date with someone past the first date. I just am very big on our intuition and following our hearts and our bodies, and it just nothing felt right. So when Kevin and I first started talking, he was out of town for like a month. So all we could do was talk on the phone, we could text, and we really developed this connection. There was this chemistry, there was just this pull towards each other. And it was like, as much as I tried to fight it, I just couldn't, And then when we actually started dating, it was just undeniable to me. I knew that that was my person. I knew that, all of the heartache, all of the pain, all of the roads really led me to being in this union and being in this partnership with this man. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's perfect, because no relationship is perfect, right? Like, hence why we are in relationships, right? To heal, to grow, to evolve. And what has really been different for me in this union, I would say this is the first time I really have union, is that we constantly call each other up. We hold each other to such a high standard within ourselves and who we are in our relationship and how we show up in our family. And sometimes that's really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable to be with someone sometimes who's willing to call you up, who's willing to point out to you, where you're kind of dropping the ball, where you're dropping your power, where you're playing small. And before him and I got together, I would have told you guys that like I was healed. I went through all the healing, I did all the things, and all those things were gone and I was ready to be in union, right? But here's the thing about relationship, right? Here's a secret I'm going to tell you anyway. So we truly heal in relationship, our relationship to others. And the best way to think about this is for me, right? I was single for 2 years. I felt like I had healed. I felt like I had moved through so much of like the trauma and the betrayal and all the triggers, but that really wasn't true. What was true was that I was in a relationship with myself where there wasn't some sort of outside stimulus to trigger me. Okay. So it wasn't that I was this magical new person and completely healed, although part of that was true. It's just that I wasn't in the type of relationships or experiences that would be activating these triggers and wounds. And why I wanted to come on and have this conversation today about what it really looks like, excuse me, to choose love after betrayal, to choose love after hurt, to choose love after trauma, is because what I really found is that true union, sustainable love that gets to get better and bigger and more delicious and more yummy is a choice, right? You may fall in love by accident, right? You may, fall head over heels, have this infatuation, but staying in love and choosing love is a choice. And that's why, you'll notice that, and I'm not picking on anyone here because I'm so guilty of this, that you're in relationship after relationship and you feel like you're getting a copy and paste of the same person with a different color eyes and a different wardrobe and a different name, but it's like the same patterns and the same problems and the same things keep popping up over and over and over again. And spirit does this for a way to give you an opportunity disguised as an obstacle to choose differently and to fully heal, right? So the answer isn't running away. The answer isn't blaming your partner. It's about finding somebody that you choose to walk this life with, that you choose to take this journey with, that you choose to heal with. Okay. And for Kevin and I both, we came with suitcases of pain. My partner was in a relationship with a woman who cheated on him with his very best friend. And he didn't find out about that till after they had already gotten married. I think it was like a month or so after they've gotten married. I may be a little froggy on the timeline, but it was very, very quickly after they had just gotten married. And you know, this causes a lot of triggers for my partner, a lot of distrust in the system, a lot of leftover betrayal, a lot of just leftover remnants of being so deeply abandoned by somebody that he loved. And really, if you think about it, two people that he loved, right? His best friend and his wife. So he had that he was bringing to the table, right? He had his armor up because he didn't want to be betrayed. He didn't want to be abandoned. He didn't want to be lied to. He didn't want to be cheated on, right? And we don't realize how those, subconscious wounds and patterns really control so much of our conscious decisions and how we even show up or perceive our relationship. And same with me. I was cheated on. I was abused. I was abandoned. There was so many things for me in my system that made me feel like I always had to armor up and have these walls on. And the hardest thing at the beginning of our relationship was to feel such a deep and strong connection to each other and to our love and to our souls, but also have so much of this deconditioning, right? And deprogramming that we had to choose to do together. And it was a choice, you guys, because in the beginning of our relationship, even though we loved each other and we were crazy about each other, we weren't ready to really look at ourselves and take ownership into how we were showing up and how we were starting to repeat some of these patterns and how we were almost even creating like a self-fulfilling prophecy because we were so afraid of it that we were actually creating it. And it wasn't until him and I started really having these deep conversations with each other and being so raw and so vulnerable and so open that we were able to start like letting the armor go piece by piece, wall by wall. We started to let these things come down so that we really could meet each other at our hearts. And it was like the more armor that came down, the more truth, the more vulnerability that we brought into the room, that we brought into our relationships, it had this beautiful inverse reaction. And at the same time, it was like that was the same amount and capacity for more love to flow through, for more intimacy, right? For more connection, for more vulnerability, for more of everything that we were wanting from each other. But it first took us diving deep into our bodies and into our wounds, into our traumas, and really making the choice that, you know what, despite all of this and despite all of this pain, and even though I know that this is the part of me that is so deeply trying to protect me, we had to make a choice that instead of choosing the protection, instead of choosing safety, instead of choosing to keep each other's at an arm's distance, that we made a commitment and devoted ourselves to always choose love, to always choose each other, to always be devoted and committed to be learning about each other, to grow with each other, to expand with each other, and to just constantly allow ourselves and our relationship to evolve. And what I really found in the 5 years being with this man, and can I just tell you that it gets to keep getting better and better, because after 5 years where you think, we'd start sizzling out and, our intimacy, our sex, our connection, whatever it is, what I can tell you is like, we are more in love. We are more tapped in. We are more turned on, like with each other, than we've ever been in our whole entire relationship. And that's because we made a choice to love who we are now today and welcome in who we are becoming along the journey, right? You can't expect your partner to be the same person, the same identity, the same way for their whole entire life, right? It literally goes against universal laws. We are either shrinking and destroying or expanding and growing, right? Like those are the only two options. Sameness is not an option. It's an absolute illusion. So to think that your relationship is always going to stay the same is what causes so much resistance and friction between the two of you, because our souls are limitless, right? Earth is a school. We came here to learn, to evolve, to grow. And in our relationships, we have to allow and create space for that, right? I know sitting here today, I am not the same woman I was when him and I first got together. And I'm fucking so proud of that. And he is not the same version of himself when we got together. And I'm so fucking proud of him for that too. And it's like, every time that we say yes and we choose love and we devote ourselves to each other and learning about each other and growing together, it's like, almost like the way that I'm picturing it in my mind's eye, it's like we're weaving together. It's like we begin to weave our life force, our Shakti, our Eros, to begin co-creating. And the life that him and I have been able to co-create in this 5 years blows my mind. It blows my mind, the amount of beauty and love and just abundance that we have manifested together. And guess what? It gets to get better. It gets to get better and more because we decided to say yes, because we choose love, because we choose the vulnerability and the uncomfortability and the times of discomfort. When we lean into that and we call each other up and we hold each other accountable, that really creates this vacuum for more in our relationship, right? I never would have thought I would be sitting here today, even telling you guys that I'm even considering getting married, that I was considering, stepping into union with someone after the road and the path that I've traveled on. But when you find somebody who truly gets you, when you find somebody that you have the chemistry, that it's like your souls have known each other, have danced together in many lifetimes, in many different realities, and you honor that and you choose that, it's like life just gets to be so juicy and so amazing. But it's like, in your choice in choosing this partner, you also have to make the choice to let go of the past. You have to make a choice that you're willing to let go of the part of you that feels like they have to armor up, that feels like they have to protect. For me, that independent, bad bitch that I can do it all by myself and I don't need a man. Because can I tell you, by letting that go, how amazing it feels to get to be supported, to get to be held, to get to be taken care of. And poof, I could do a whole nother episode on that, because that has been work in itself, training that receiving muscle, training my heart, training my womb, training my body, that it's safe to be held by the masculine. And it's like, what this union has really gifted me as well is that, like, it's been such an invitation back into my feminine, because instead of having to be the mom and having to be the dad and having to take care of everything, it's like he holds that structure, he holds that energy. So I get to lean back and to relax and open and just get to be so much more expressed in my body, in my truth, in my essence, in my life force. I have tapped into so much more of my femininity since him and I have been together, because he creates the safe space for me to do so, because I know no matter how wild or primal or big my emotions, my life force can be, he chooses me. He says yes. He says yes to my evolution. He says yes to my expansion. He says yes to my dreams. He says yes to my desires. He says yes to all of me. He welcomes all of me into the room. The woo-woo, the wild, the, sexual, the crazy parts of me that, I thought I had to constantly hide and repress because they were too much or not enough in certain, relationships, whatever. It's like, he just welcomes all of it. He welcomes the truth. He invites more of me into our relationship, into my business, into my life. And to have somebody who fully chooses you and breathes life into you is something that I truly have never experienced before. I've never had somebody who has held me, who has loved me, who has seen me, who has just poured life into me like this man has. And it gives me the courage to constantly keep choosing myself. And it's like the more that he feeds into me, it's like I want to feed into him, and I want to water him, and I want to applaud him, and I want to help him grow. And I just think it's such a beautiful experience of love, of union, of partnership when you have somebody who chooses you over and over again, who chooses to love you, who is devoted to loving you, to knowing you over and over again. And has our relationship had different iterations and seasons? Yes, absolutely. Welcome to being a human. Welcome to being alive. But it's finding the person who will ride with you in the darkness, who will go with you through the muck. And after the last year and a half of my life, I have no doubt that we could go through the darkest of days together and like still find joy and still come out on top, and that we would still be okay. And for me, I've never had somebody in my life just love me that way. Oh, now I'm going to cry, you guys. All right, pull back, pull back. I've never had that. And to me, that's the type of love that you want to keep fighting for. That's the type of love that you want to say yes to, that you want to keep choosing. And I just, for so long, felt like it wasn't possible for me. I thought that I was too broken. I was too damaged. Nobody would ever love me again. Nobody would ever choose me again, especially being a single mom. Nobody is ever gonna see me or ever want me. And to go from that paradigm of reality to no one's ever going to want me, no one's ever going to choose me, I have to do it all alone, to now being in a reality with someone who always chooses me, who always loves me, who always supports me, who always calls me up and pushes me, you know, deeper into my callings and my desires. Like, I just want to put it out there that it is so possible, and that no matter what you've been through, whether you've been through trauma like I have, whether you've been abused, whether you've been broken, whether you've been abandoned, that, trust it. Because now on the other side of this, it's like I can see why all of those things happened in my life. I can see where God was guiding me. I can see, what I gained from each of those heartbreaks and each of those experiences. And just trust that if you're in a season where you're going through something like this, it is divinely on purpose. It is divinely on time, because God knows that you deserve more. God knows that you are capable of receiving more. And God has the perfect counterpart to be with you, to co-create and to build the life that you truly desire, to experience the love, the sex, whatever it is that you want to desire. But it first takes you choosing it and saying yes. It takes you choosing to let go of the past, choosing to let go of the heartbreak, choosing to let go of the trauma, and choosing to walk forward in your life with your heart open, right? This is all about coming back to the heart, opening the heart, and saying yes to yourself, saying yes to love. If you're a woman who struggles with worthiness, with feeling enough, and really allowing yourself to be seen, this is literally my sweet spot and where I love to guide my clients through to help women redefine their relationship with their power, with their magic, and truly begin to live a life that is in alignment, that is fully expressed in their essence, and really which leads you to liberation, prosperity, and to deepen into your purpose. I recently have opened a few select spaces for one-on-one deep feminine mentorship and will be reopening the doors to my group mastermind emergence. Click the link in the bio to apply. I can't wait to connect.